Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Aunbareen Khan, course instructor of organization study. This is lecture number 22 and today we will talk about the impression management. Basically, the impression management, also called a self-presentation, is a conscious or subconscious process in which the people attempt to influence the other perception about the person, object, or an event by regulating and controlling the information in a social interaction. In this session, we will discuss what is impression management, types of impression management, tactics of impression management, social identity theory, conflict between personal identity and social identity, self-presentation, technique of impression management tactics, finding of impression management. Let us discuss what is impression management. Impression management, it is a goal-directed conscious or unconscious attempt to influence the perception of other people about a person, object, or an event by regulating and controlling information in social interaction. Impression management is how to make a favorable impression, how to perceive other and evaluate other on the basis of dress, makeup, hairstyle, manner and general behavior, body language. So the process of portraying yourself to other in a manner that create a desired impression. Impression management is the goal-directed activity of controlling and regulating information in order to influence the impression formed by the audience. Basically, impression management is the theory of a self-perception and cognition are consistently with the goals and action. Impression management is a conscious and unconscious process that influence the perception of other people about the person, object, even by regulating and controlling information. So the impression management theory play in a most important role in a society. Types of impression management. There are two types of impression management: constructive impression management and strategic. Constructive helps in formation of self-identity, whereas strategic help in the attainment of some interpersonal goal. Tactics of impression management. Self-enhancement. It includes effort to boost one physical appearance. It also effort to increase their appeal to others, include using props to enhance their appeal to the whole world or a social website. Social identity theory. Impression management is related to the social identity theory. So the person versus social identity continuum. The personal identity self-description is a part of intragroup comparison. Description of a self at a social identity level is an intragroup comparison. Basically, impression management is the study of how people attempt to manage or control the perception of other form of them. The goal of impression management is to steer others' opinion or impression with the use of controlling information in either a person or social situation. In addition to impression management being used in an individual setting, impression management theory can also be appealed at a micro-organizational level. So the organization use impression management tactics to manage their image of organization and cultivate a positive image with a constituent outside the organization. According to the history, that impression management theory was first introduced by Goffman in the dramatically model of a social life in a late 1950. Since then, many scholars discuss about the impression management has been used of a Goffman framework. A typically impression management model contains the two key players as an actor who engage in a performance or an impression behavior and an audience who interact with the actor under certain environment setting. So impression management behavior can be categorized in a two primary category: assertive strategies, which is the actor used to establish a given desired identity, and defensive strategy, which are excuses or justification to repair the damaged identity. So basically, the impression management theory is depend upon the assertive or defensive strategy. Assertive strategy is related to desirable identity, whereas the defensive strategy is help to repair the damaged identity. The person versus social identity. So personal identity is related to intragroup as in an individual, whereas a social identity is related to intergroup as a member of a group. Conflict between a personal identity and social identity. When a person does an act which is inconsistent to that of the social identity, then such a conflict arises. So in this purpose, the impression management two tactics is used, that is a defensive strategy help to repair our damaged identity in the form of justification or in the form of repair our identity. Self-presentation. So impression management is also called the self-presentation because it depends upon the situation, it depends upon the other treatments. So self-presentation is basically focused on other enhancement. It includes the tactics to gain one liking, such as the flattery, tactics to induce the positive moods and reaction in other, certain of a target person or a group, for example dressing up according to a certain person liking. So there are most important technique of impression management, that our impression management is related to conformity, excuse, apologize, self-promotion, flattery, favor, association and opinion. So let us discuss these techniques one by one. Basically, impression management technique used roughly term impression management technique. Impression management is the process by which the people manage and control their perception to the other people from about them. This is also referred to as putting your best foot forward and showing the best, yani read fake face in a public. Impression management is thus a diplomatic and political tool for a one to claim hierarchical ladder in an organization without sacrificing a one basic principle. As with the other cognitive process, impression management has a many conceptual dimensions. A distinction between the impression management or impression construction can be made first in the bridging the gulf between the image of the individual want to other to see and others have to be him. A second, in a specific image the individual want to project and how he goes in doing so. Some well-known technique of impression management are like a conformity. So let us discuss conformity. Conformity, agreeing with someone else's opinion in order to get his or her approval. For example, a manager tell his boss, "You are absolutely right on your reorganization plan of a eastern region. I could not agree with you more." That the subordinate may not mean it, and the boss and the subordinate both know it, but they let it pass. Second technique is excuse. Excuse like explanation of the problem, creating a situation aimed to bring down the seriousness of the problem. For instance, sales managers to boss, We fail to put the advertisement in time, but see no one worthwhile respond to these advertisements these days. Apologize. Apologize means admitting responsibility for an undesirable event and the same time seeking to get pardon. For example, the employee to the boss, I am sorry I made a mistake on the report. Please forgive me. Self-promotion. Self-promotion is related to accomplishments, explaining favorable events to maximize the desirable implication for oneself. Example, the salesperson to his immediate superior, the sales have almost doubled since I joined this region. Flattery. Complimenting others about their virtues so as to appear perceptive and likable. For example, sales executive to his superior, you handled that customer complaint so tactfully. I could not do it like you did for sure. Favors. Doing something nice to someone to gain the person appreciation. Example, sales executive to sales manager. I have got 2 tickets of Sunny Leon movie to watch. I can't go, sir. You take it, sir. Consider this, sir, as a token of a thanks, sir, for how you helped me, sir. Association. Enhancing one's image by using and managing information with which one is associated. Example, a candidate during interview, oh, what a coincidence, your boss and I were roommates back in a college. Opinion conformity. This is a very serious technique in creating a favor to the opinion of their boss. So the executive must be smarter to understand how these tactics are used by the people in order to good foothold somewhere in a maze of corporate diplomacy, and try to be in a good books of those who play the Gulf. A lecturer is in a reputed institute used to stay back even after official time is over and then work extra time editing the draft done day before, and after some time giving a phone call or to director just to get his advice on a certain government agency clauses, thereby impressing upon how he was hard worker and other work shakers. That's a very serious issue in a organization, that the candidate or a subordinate can be showing the diplomacy. Following day, he used to make it a point to give his time slot to some other lecturer so that he was free to sit in a front of desktop and serve you know what. So the public relation is a very important function from a managerial and societal perspective. It is a well-developed sub-specific specialization within the management science. It is established, credible and honest PR practice to distribute a gift during a festive season. In itself, this does not amount to a barrier. Barbary. Barbary is an event specific action for the applied or explicit benefit to derive in order to get ball rolling, implying some kind of a quid pro quo. Relationship building. So, reading network building in a today paralysis is a long term process in a friendship and business association, so the transaction are smooth. If that were not to be understood, then all the efforts taken toward discharging corporate social responsibility could be labeled as a bribing society. So, impression management technique, for example, behavioral matching. The target of perception matches his or her behavior to that of the perceiver. This means a subordinate tries to imitate her boss' behavior by being modest, soft spoken because her boss is modest and soft spoken. Self promotion, the target tries to present herself or himself in a positive a light as a possible. A worker remind his boss about his past accomplishment and associate with the co-worker who are evaluated highly. Conformity, conformity situation, conformity situation. The target follow agree upon rules for behavior in the organization. So a worker stay late every night even if she has completed all of her assignment because staying late in one of the norm of her organization. Appreciating or a flattering other. The target compliments that the perceivers. This is the tactic works best when the flattery is not extreme and when it is involved a dimension important to perceiver. A co-worker compliments a manager on his excellent handling of a troublesome employee. Being consistent, the target belief and the behavior are consistent. There is an agreement between the target verbal and non-verbal behavior. Subordinate delivering a message to his boss looks the boss straight in the eye and has a sincere expression on his face. So finding of impression management in gradations. Universal agreement about the standard in gradations tactics. These include showing interest in the person, smiling, eye contact, and agreeing flattery. Impression management skills. Role of cognitive load. Impression management skill exercised by us for a year. At the time of performing other tasks, we are less concentrated to presenting ourselves. So Ponthry and a scholar conclude that who are uncomfortable in a social situation, if busy in performing other tasks, may present themselves better. Impression management also the research include the extroverted and introverted at the time of job interview. Cognitive busyness of the introverted and extroverted people inferred within presenting themselves. Impression management by the marginalized people. So case of a Enochs largely perceived as the person who are incapable of doing a impressive political leadership, but in a impression management, when they are elected to a representative, then they have managed their impression in such a form they are perceived by the society risen above the corruption and caste. Let us conclude today's session. Impression management. From all the objective technique finding tactics and tips, we can conclude that impression management play a vital role in all fields such as organization, hospital, education, institution. So impression management is the process through which the one people influence on other. Basically, impression management theory is focus of individual and organization to create and manage their impression to the target audience. So, impression management is theory is applied to the big organization and how organization manage their image and impression. So, the impression management pay a more attention to individual level as well as organization level. So in that impression management is also a direct and assertive organization impression practice. There's an ingradation, intermediation, organizational promotion, exemplification. So these are most important ingredients that are used in a impression management. These are our reference articles that cover the content. If you have any query regarding this lecture, you can surely ask through email. Thank you.